family. Sergio was a Milby High School student, a son, a brother, a football player, a wonderful child whose life ended far too soon. The district and Milby High School team's greatest sympathies are with the parents, and we will continue to support them in the months ahead. A private vigil hosted by the family and the school is being held to honor Sergio's life this afternoon at Milby High School. Counseling and crisis support are available to all Milby High School students as they process this tragic loss. I've said over and over again that the most important and most critical priority at HISD, and many of them have to cross active railroad tracks to do so. The tragic loss this week is a heartfelt reminder, a heartbreaking reminder, of all the things we and this community need to do to make sure kids aren't forced to jeopardize their safety to make it to and from school every day. Now, HISD cannot solve this problem on our own, and we know many of our campuses already take active steps to secure crossing. I'm grateful that Mayor Whitmire has pledged his support for a pedestrian bridge at the crossing near Milby High School. And I'm hopeful that the Union Pacific will work with our broader community and HISD to support necessary improvements to protect kids and families on their way to and from school. So here are some specific steps that I can announce today from HISD's end. All HISD principals will restate and reinforce for students and families that students should never race the train to avoid being late to school. Students who are late because a train blocked their path should never be counted as late. And students may be dismissed late at the end of the day if a train is blocking their route home at the end of the day. So we'll remind principals to reinforce this with their students daily and weekly. Second, HISD has a mechanism to provide transportation for students who live on walking routes deemed as hazardous, who would not otherwise be eligible for transportation. Campuses and families can request hazardous route transportation and are encouraged to do so if they are concerned about their child's path to school. Families can work with their campus administrators to make a transportation request in these cases. These requests will be automatically approved for elementary school students. And by the way, this is what we do already. This is not new. These requests will be automatically approved for elementary school students who have to cross train tracks and will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis for middle and high school students. HISD will ask Union Pacific to offset the cost of this additional bus service when it is due to a rail crossing. Houston ISD and Houston ISD Police Department will develop and distribute a rail safety campaign for students and families to provide critical safety information and remind students about safe behaviors around trains, tracks, and crossings. Students should never crawl beneath a train or attempt to beat a train. Their safety is paramount and no risk is worth it. Lastly, I will join forces with Mayor Whitmire, Judge Lena Hidalgo, and the Houston Police Chief Diaz to attempt to secure the needed resources at the 9 most dangerous crossings in HISD. These railroad tracks these are the tracks that are close to our campuses and that are unsafe for passage. We'll work to secure the resources to provide safer pedestrian crossing options for our students. I believe it is the utmost important that the city and county leaders work together to keep our students safe in and out of school. At this time, I'll take a few questions.
Okay. Let me know if you have a question before asking.
Yeah. How many schools are there that are close or nearby in HISD? And you mentioned 9. Are the only ones that are dangerous?
No, we have 118 schools that are close to railroad tracks, or at least have railroad tracks between a child's home and the school. 118. It's a city with a lot of railroad tracks. But there are 9 that are the most severe, and those are the ones we think we can try to address if we work together with all the other governmental agencies in the Union Pacific.
I have a question. Will HISD release the list of those 9, and are you saying you'd like to see pedestrian bridges specifically to make it safer?
Yeah, I think either a pedestrian bridge or an underpass, a tunnel, that might help. Yes, and yeah, we'll release the list of the 9s. I think you're going to get this. I had the 9. I can read them quickly. Milby High School, the Waltrip High School, McReynolds Middle School, Forest Brook Middle School, Cashmere High School, Cook Elementary School, Burnett Elementary School, Tijerina Elementary School, and Roosevelt Elementary School. Now, again, keep in mind there are 118 schools out of the 274 that have railroad crossings in the area.
The Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick just issued a statement about this particular incident, and he says that he's gonna issue an order to TxDOT to start exploring the possibility of a bridge. He doesn't understand why a bridge wasn't built in the first place. Would you also join forces with the state to see what they can do to this other 118? Maybe that's precaution?
Yeah, I think it's welcome news that if all the government agencies, including the state and the Union Pacific, want to work together to provide resources and find a way. Let's start with the 9, and then we can move further out from that. So I think that's welcome news.
Another question. Can you address the Milby High School staff that we're seeing assisting students cross between rail cars, and what guidance is being offered to them as it pertains to stop trains?
So in this specific case, what you're talking about, or what you're referring to, I believe, is after the student passed, it became not just a safety scene, but also an investigation scene. Union Pacific personnel were on the ground at that crossing, and they told and worked with our police department to say, look, this train is going to be stopped for 7 or 8 hours. That they were there saying that, and they were monitoring and said, we need to clear this area of students and other anybody that's around. So the police department, Union Pacific there, and our principal or an AP or staff members helped kids clear the area, move across the train safely, and then go to school. So that's what happened.
So it doesn't happen routinely, just to be clear? That was a one-off?
That's clear. It doesn't happen routinely.
Yeah, you mentioned that hazardous route transportation exists within HISD. Do you have a count or an estimate of how many households or students currently use that?
I don't have that number yet, but we will get that number to you. Hazardous route transportation it's nothing new. It's not just for trains, by the way.
Is this going to have any effect on your consolidations of schools or picking sites, selling off properties or anything in the future? Are you going to try to get rid of some of these schools that are in really the worst locations?
So no decision has been made about consolidating or selling or anything like that. And yes, if we ever get to that point, all the factors will be considered, including railroad tracks.
Hi, Superintendent. How are you? Michelle from Channel 11. So could you talk to us about, I understand that the district has been in touch with Union Pacific for years. What are the complications that you've run into over the years? Where did the conversation stop as far as them assisting and providing more support to provide safety measures? You know, was that put off? Where did it end, and was it just put on hold? What happened over the years?
I'm not exactly sure, but I have been given some information about our conversations and the district's conversations. And it's a complicated issue, of course, because it's not just about the school, right? It's actually not our property where the train tracks are, and it involves multiple governmental agencies, the county, the city, And so it's a very nuanced, and no one governmental agency can make a decision that might impact the others. And on top of that, it comes down to some resource. I mean, it costs money to build a bridge, and that also has to be intergovernmental, right, with the Union Pacific. Unless all agencies can really force the Union Pacific to build bridges. And again, it's a city with a lot of tracks. We have 274 schools, 118 of them are impacted by railroad tracks on the way to school. So I think that's the complicating factor. I don't know any specific details about why the negotiation would break down or not.
If you don't mind, my second question that I had was it pretty common knowledge among students at Milby High School that tardies will not count against them when there is a train? Is this something that they were well aware of? Because so many students told us, at the scene, that they were like, we don't want to be late.
Yeah, and I have full confidence in the principal, who has been there a long time, 7 years, and that is the policy, and that's the one that she has enforced and informed her students about. Look, don't race the train. She also pays police officers overtime to be stationed at that crossing. That's how invested she was in the safety of kids. And so it's pretty clear also that she has given the student body plenty of information about, hey, if you're late because of the crossing, because if a train is blocking your path, you will be excused. And that is the policy for all the schools with these crossings close by.
Of the folks who,
Let me get the question for Kyle on that.
Yes, yeah. Houston Public Media. I was going to ask, yesterday the district announced it was going to offer to help somewhat the family with funeral costs or anything. Is there an update on that? Have y'all been in contact with the family about that? Is there anything more you can share on that?
Do you have any details?
The principal's working with nonprofits in the area, and there's a local funeral home that's covering the costs, and the district is working with other organizations to provide the family more assistance.
Okay, thank you.
and I know the district offers this hazardous transportation if requested. Of the folks who've already requested it, do you have an idea of what the acceptance rate is on that?
So hazardous transportation route requests have been around for a long time. I don't have any anecdotal information of the last few days, but what I have is we know that from our experience with high school students, almost always they will not request hazardous transportation routes. They don't want to ride buses to school, and similarly for middle school students.
Margaret.
There have been several reports that, first of all, it was said that he did not cross in a designated area. But there have been several reports that a lot of kids don't cross in that designated area. How does is the school oblivious to that? If so many kids are crossing at another place, would the school authorities not know that, hey, there's another place that they're all crossing?
So the recommended crossing, the main crossing, is where we can put personnel like police officers, which happens at Milby. But you can imagine, I don't know the specific answer to your question. Think about the railroad track and, the length of it. And you might have some kids crossing, in multiple places. I mean, that is hard to monitor, the length of a railroad track, and many of them in a city. So what we can do and what we have done is do safety campaigns to say, don't race the train, cross at the specific area. The guardrails are down, the lights are flashing. There's a police officer or a staff member, and many other schools too have a staff member or something close by to the main crossing. And so that is what we're encouraging kids to do. That's what I'm sure if they see somebody, they're going to yell and say, hey, don't cross over here, come to this place. But, on a regular basis, monitoring the whole length of the, railroad is not feasible.
Would a fence do any good to actually block the ability to cross in other places and prevent it?
Margaret, it's not our land, so.
I know it's not.
Yeah.
I wondered if that was part of the discussions, that you could suggest to Union Pacific to maybe put up a fence that would block kids from.
It's a good idea and could definitely be part of the conversations. The thing I'll add on to the question about monitoring the length of the track, the principal has 2 officers that patrol the area, not just that section, because she wants to make sure that the area is patrolled, but obviously a couple patrol people can't patrol the entire length of the track, as the superintendent said.
Do we have more questions? David?
Could you talk a little bit about the rail safety campaign? Are you asking Union Pacific to offset the cost for the rail safety campaign?
No, we'll probably cover that cost on our own, the rail safety campaign. We do this regularly anyway, so we're not asking Union Pacific to offset the costs of our campaign. At the same time, it would be much appreciated if the Union Pacific would conduct their own campaign to help with rail safety.
And may I ask additionally, regarding the tardy policy, is that written somewhere where families and students can refer to?
I don't know if it's in the handbook or not. Do you, Alex? Do you know if the policy about not charging kids tardy is that in our student handbook?
I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll find out.
Michelle?
Superintendent Miles, could you talk to us about the last few days? Have there been conversations with Union Pacific, with the district? Are they, I understand statements they've sent to the media, or that they're cooperating and, are sending their heartfelt condolences, but we didn't get much else from them. What have the conversations been about? Where is this currently headed?
Yeah, right now, most of the conversations have been between our police department and our safety unit and the Union Pacific. We will be, in the next several weeks, talking to them closely about what I talked about today, which is working with them and the mayor's office and the county officials, Lena Hidalgo in the county, about how we do more than just a bridge at Milby.
And my last question is, while the community continues to grieve the loss of Sergio, what is currently happening right now over at Milby High School? Because students still have train tracks to cross. Have there been more additional officers put in place, or is there something that is, has anything changed over there, I guess?
So, again, we're taking these steps to raise even more awareness, reminding the students about the safe crossing. The crossing is the same place. The procedures are the same place at that crossing. We still have police officers there who are working to make sure the kids are safe there. So those are the things happening at Milby.
Do we have more questions? Margaret?
Have you appointed anyone on your staff who's going to head up this effort to bring this all together?
So it'll be multiple departments that are going to be working on this, and we haven't decided exactly who will be on the team to do this.
To what extent is there communication with the federal level regarding this? Have you been in contact with any federal level officials about this, and to what extent?
I have not.
Do we have more questions? Go ahead, Karen.
Yes, I know at this campus, you said the principal pays overtime for some officers to help at least try and watch students. Is that done at other campuses? And is this a formal practice, or was it something initiated by this principal?
In this case, it was initiated by this principal for this campus, of course, because they have 2,000 students, and they have a number of kids who walk and pass that crossing or cross at that point. So that's why the resources were applied in this way. Other schools do different things depending on the amount of students who are crossing.
I think that's it. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everybody.